Why is this podcast?
Hello and welcome back to Why Is This Podcast? I ask a question, you call and answer. And a couple of things have happened since the last podcast. For one, I've gotten busy on Sundays. So I think I'm going to start recording the podcast on Monday evenings and airing them every Tuesday at noon. So it's not that much of a change, and chances are you're probably not listening anyway. So, we're going to go with that. So, our new schedule, Tuesday at noon, Central, that is. The season finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi came out. It was fantastic. I've watched it, seriously, 10 times in the last several days. And also, congratulations to the mighty Colorado Avalanche for winning the 2022 Stanley Cup Championship. They won it in 6 games. They should have won it in 5. But I'll take it. Let's go Avalanche. Well, let's get into the show. Your bullshit job. Let's talk about that. Now, I'd asked about, a bullshit job that you're working or have worked in the past. And I'm certainly concerned about your anonymity, so if you didn't include your name, no big deal. If you did, you've got more guts than I do. But first, I'm going to give you a story about a bullshit job that I've had before. I used to work back in, maybe it was 1998, maybe late 1998. I had a job for a few months, and I was working at a place that does like mail sort stuff. And what I mean by that is they send out junk mail. The Arby's coupons and the Globe Life flyer and that kind of bullshit. And there was a room in the back where everybody worked. It was the warehouse. Of course, I didn't work on the production floor. I worked in the warehouse. So every now and then I'd get to drive a forklift around. But most of the time I sat in a little room weighing packets. All I did was take 2 samples from, say, 10,000 that they ran to put on a pallet, and I'd weigh them on a little scale. I'd weigh the first one, and I'd weigh the last one that came off, and if they were all the same weight, then we could put the thing on the mail truck. And I understand why I did that, because the penalty for not weighing your mail right when you're sending out that much mail is pretty hefty. So I get it, but at the same time, I'm thinking, why didn't they just put the scales at the end of the inserter machines that were actually packing these bulk mailers and just let the person that's running it weigh it? I had that job, and I wasn't really doing anything most of the night. I worked a 12-hour shift, and I would actually work about 15 minutes a night. And it was miserable. And people, I know people will say, well, man, I'd love to have a job that I didn't have to do anything. Try doing nothing for 12 hours. Try it. I dare you. You can't do it. So I worked there for about 3 months and quit. But I'll go back to what initially made me think of this episode. I was reading an article on Vox, not Fox, but Vox. And it was essentially kind of reading that according to studies that if we did things right by the end of the century, we could have our standard work week in the United States down to about 15 hours a week. With just absolute bare minimum unemployment. And everybody could get paid and have all that time to do what they wanted. But the advent of the 40-hour work week has really put us in a position, if you pair it with the fact that modern technology and machinery have taken away so many jobs that are, either too tedious for a person to do, or maybe a little too dangerous for a person to do, that there's not a whole lot left for people that want to work full time. So a lot of employers are just having to make up jobs just so that they can say they're employing people, and people will sit in an office and peck on a keyboard for a couple of hours a day, but their job is not really affecting anything. It's not doing anything. It's not changing anything. It's not fulfilling, and I think it leaves people severely depressed after a while, and maybe a little angry. That's the definition of a bullshit job to me. It's a job that you do for 40 hours a week that really doesn't do anything. And I don't have a bullshit job. Okay, I like my job. I feel like I'm doing something that actually matters to someone. I work in production. I produce actual parts. I physically make things, and they're not extravagant, spectacular things, but at the end of the day, I feel like I did something, and that's fulfilling to me. I enjoy my job, but there are a lot of people that don't, and a lot of people that don't enjoy their job don't enjoy it because they're not really doing anything. So that's really that's the way my definition of bullshit job goes. But I want to hear your definition. So let's get to a call and figure out what you think about it.
Hi, Jeff. It's Michael here. I want to tell you about the most BS job that I ever had in my entire life. Now, I had spent 3 months in jail and got out, when I'm, looking at getting married, turning the whole thing around. It's all life is your oyster. And previously I had been a mechanic, and so I apply and get hired on with Express Oil Change. Now, I don't know what Express Oil Change is like today, and I've heard that some of the stores are franchise stores. Anyway, the one that I went to, they didn't want a mechanic. No. What they wanted was a shoe salesman. I spent the first 2 days learning how to recite and repeat an exact written way of talking to people. And there was like 30-something things I had to memorize. And until I could memorize those things verbatim, I wasn't even allowed out on the shop floor. And I worked there for 3 days. 3 days. And then the guy said, go ahead, tomorrow's Thursday. That'll be your day off for this week. I never went back. I never wanted to be paid for those 3 days. I just wanted to get as far away from that place and their ridiculous sales-type ideology of automotive as far as I could.
All right. Thank you, Michael, for the call. I hope you're doing well. There's something about this mega corporate mentality I think that people have, where it's more important for you to be a corporate shill than it is for you to be an employee that actually does their job right. It aggravates me to think about that. I used to work at Best Buy a long time ago, and they kind of had the same mentality where it really didn't matter if you did your job good or if you did your job right, as long as you could tell them what you wanted to tell them. If you could recite their little corporate motto that was written over the time clock in the warehouse, then it really didn't matter if you could do your job or not. That to me, yeah, that qualifies as a bullshit job. I'll buy that. Let's take another call and hear a little more bullshit. the hell is going on here? Okay, thank you for that.
Creek water, don't you?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate your call. You didn't think I wasn't going to put it on here, did you? Well, we're talking about bullshit jobs, not bullshit calls today. But thank you for your input. By the way, Mike, I gotta have you on this show one day. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Let's take a little break and come back. We've got a couple of more calls to examine. All right, we're back from the break, and the next call I have is actually recreated from a text message that someone sent me. I used a text-to-speech app so that it didn't just sound like me reading a text message. But you know, there's something substantial in the text anyway, so let's have a listen.
All right. Not sure how bullshit this is. I worked at Books A Million at the old Eastwood Mall once. They had some dumbass rule where if you were under 18 you couldn't run the registers, so my job was to straighten books. All fucking day. It was such bullshit. You're probably thinking stop being a bitch, but it was terrible. Also, I had to talk to customers still and they were all bizarre. Once a guy came in speaking with a British accent, so I asked him where he was from and he said I'm from Birmingham, I just talk like this. Also, I worked another bullshit job and decided I was going to quit because everyone was a goober smoocher. Anyway, the day of, I said I was going to Subway and asked if anyone wanted anything. Someone gave me a card for a free sub and I got about $30 for orders. I walked out, went to my car, and drove the fuck home. We had Subway for dinner that night. Maybe this isn't what you're looking for. Every job is bullshit, honestly.
Well, you're probably right, and thank you for the message. Yeah, most jobs have at least a fair amount of bullshit involved with them. There's at least something you don't like about your job. I don't think there is a perfect job. I don't think working for yourself, I don't think working for anyone else, you can find that perfect thing to do. But, you know, sitting and sorting books all day is pretty mind-numbing. So I can see how that would go. I can see how that would go a little sour in a hurry. By the way, I should say this, that, like I said, again, that was delivered in a text message to the voicemail hotline. Now, if you would prefer to do that, that's okay. You can send a text to the voicemail hotline, and I'll be glad to turn it into a robot voice for you. I will do everything I can to protect your anonymity. I have no interest in screwing somebody up, and I get it. So I want you to know your information's safe with me. I'm not going to share your name, your number, your location with anybody. And if you feel better not having your voice on here, well, so be it. We can deal with that too. We've got a couple of more calls, so let's check out the next one.
Yeah, I don't have, I really actually kind of like my job, but I have one boss who is just a fucking right-wing shitbag, and he makes it really difficult to enjoy the job on the 2 days a month that he's actually in there working, because he doesn't show up on the day-to-day, but when he does show up, he forces everybody to kowtow to his ideas and stuff, and none of the other people really feel the same way that he does. So it's a pain in the ass. Like 90% of the time, the job is great, which I know doesn't really qualify for a bullshit job if 90% of the time it's great. I get that. But when he shows up, the entire rest of the staff is just like, they can't fucking handle it. And, yeah, he's full on pro-gun, pro-Trump, overturning Roe v. Wade. He just makes it miserable on the 2 days a month that he actually shows up to do the job. Keep up the good work, Jeff. Take care, bud.
Hey, I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well. At 10%'s a pretty high number to put up with. But I understand that one too. I left my last job. Other than the fact that it was working in a wood shop and it was really beating the hell out of me. I left my last job because my boss was a right-wing big mouth, and all he did for the 4 years I was at this shop was sit in the air-conditioned loft, just watching everybody toil away in 100-degree heat in a wood shop and a machine shop and a plastic room that got up to about 120 degrees on occasion. My job was to mix plastic and pour it at that job. And this man sat out there and told us how good we had it. And of course, he did a lot of bitching and moaning about politics too. And it really got tiresome. In the end, he ended up leaving the remaining people in that shop high and dry, left them short about a month of pay, and went and bought a $250,000 house with cash. So, fuck that guy. That job was bullshit. We got one more call. Let's check it out.
I work for myself, so I have many jobs, but part of my job is organizing events so that I can sell the things I do to the people that like the things I do that go to those sorts of events. And in order to sell my things to people, I have to organize events people will come to, and I have to deal with all the people to make those events happen. And sometimes those people can be extremely frustrating. Most of the time, those people are great, but sometimes they can be super frustrating, and it can be complete bullshit to have to do so much work so other people can all have fun and do a thing and get paid. So I can try my best to get other people to come buy some of the stuff I made, and then I fail. And so everybody succeeds sometimes except for me. And I didn't sell the stuff I was trying to sell to people, and I barely made enough money to pay all the people to do the thing they like to do, and all the people had fun. But it's a BS job when I fail and don't make any money because I couldn't sell any of the stuff I made. But otherwise, my job's great. I don't know if you can use that. But Hannah will tell you about the what it's like in the kitchen. But anyway, it can be, well, it's not really BS because even if I don't make any money and I work really hard and everybody else benefits from it, I still get a good show and I still got to see all my friends. So I still benefit, even if financially I don't always benefit from that part of the job. So never mind, don't use this. It's not BS after all. What do you like to eat? We like to eat though, so like it's bullshit when it's harder to eat. that can be bullshit because because it didn't go as well and things didn't work out. Venues cancel on you and people don't show up, or it rains, or fucking there's a football game you didn't know about 'cause you don't watch football. Or all the bands argue about when they want to play, and then they fuck up your order, and then the crowd comes when nobody expects it anyway. And I could just sit there and ramble on and on about all the little things. But yeah, I saw a little kid mosh for the first time the other day, so none of that shit matters. It's a really good job. Never mind. Have a good night.
Well, let's examine this for a minute. Thank you for your call, first off. Hope you and your family are doing well, and I hope to see you really soon. There's going to be bullshit involved in even the best job of your life. There are going to be hiccups. There are going to be things that annoy you, and there are going to be things that make you want to quit sometimes. Now, that being said, I'm really glad that you don't have to work for a boss you don't like. That is the one wonderful thing about working for yourself. Now, I tried to run a screen printing shop several years ago, and I think I figured out a few years in that I really wasn't single enough to do it, so I kind of dropped out of it. I loved doing the work, but there was a lot of bullshit, and it was none of my business partner's fault. He did a great job. It was really more. I felt like I was giving up too much of my life for it, not getting enough in return. And I think the reason I felt that way is because I was already paying child support. And, I mean, I wasn't in the position to run a business. And I'm still not, and I'm fine with that. I don't feel like I need to run a business. I'm happy where I'm at. But no, that's the biggest problem with running your own business is you have to deal with your clientele. You can't necessarily, unless you can afford to hire somebody to deal with your clientele. That's your job, and you're not always going to like all of them. And sometimes things just don't pan out financially like you want them to. So anyway, I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your work. And again, I hope to see you real soon. Have a good one, buddy. Well, that was a pretty fun show. Now, before I get into next week's question, I want to take a moment to talk about something important, or it's important to me, and I know it's important to a lot of you. Several days ago, the United States Supreme Court reversed the decision on Roe versus Wade, and it kicked into effect a lot of trigger laws that were specifically set up to go into effect if it happened. Now, I live in Alabama, so we had one of the stricter laws go into effect. It makes it virtually impossible for a woman to get an abortion without some pretty hefty circumstances being tied to it. And I'm already reading stories where this is happening, not in Alabama, but in other states, where people are, for instance, going into a hospital with an ectopic pregnancy, and the doctor's having to sit on the phone with a lawyer first to find out if what they're doing is legal before they can take care of it. One story in particular had read that the patient nearly died from blood loss while waiting on the phone to speak to an attorney. Okay, this can't stand. This cannot stay this way. Voting isn't necessarily enough, but vote. Go do it. Okay, you can say, well, it doesn't mean anything. It absolutely means something. Go vote. Okay, the next time you have a chance. And in the meantime, organize, okay? There are dozens, if not hundreds of groups in central Alabama that want to do something about this. I'm not going to push one over the other, but you can find them on Facebook, you can find them on Instagram, you can find them on Twitter, you can find them on YouTube, you can find them on Reddit, you can find them everywhere. Find someone to pair up with so that you can fight this thing, because abortion is not something that people take lightly. Okay, I don't know any sport abortionists, and I don't know. I've never met a person who just went and got an abortion every couple of months because they didn't want to have a baby. That's some story that a right winger made up. Okay, and I'm tired of hearing them. So do something, Find some people to organize with. Figure out what you can do. There are tons of groups and message boards and pages that you need to connect with if you want to do something about it. This is a big deal, and it's only the beginning. So let's do something about it. All right. Okay. Enough about that. So let's get into next week's question. We talked about bullshit jobs this week. Let's talk about hobbies next time. I want to hear something fun. I want to hear something uplifting. Okay. Now, I'm a hobby musician. I like playing music. I like recording it. I like playing shows. It's never something I consider making a living off of, but it's always been fun. It's always been a powerful part of my life. And I want to hear about your hobby. Tell me what you do. Tell me what you enjoy doing. Tell me what you like about it, what it does for you, how it makes you feel. Tell me about your hobby. And you can tell me about it by calling 205-530-0354. That's 205-530-0354. Leave me a voicemail. Tell me what you have fun doing. I want to hear about it. I want to experience a little joy with you. Considering how hard things have been lately, I think a little levity would be great. And I'd really appreciate your call. You can find me on Twitter at WhyIsPod. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Why Is This Podcast. And if you prefer to email me something, say a soundbite or a message, you can find me at whyisthispod@gmail.com. I also have a YouTube channel now. You can find me there too. And every week's podcast will be shared there, along with all your other places, your Apple Podcast or Spotify or Google Podcast, Stitcher. You can pretty much find me on any podcatcher. So give me a listen, and if you can give me a rating, give me a high one. I would appreciate that. Give me a thumbs up on YouTube, and until next time, always ask why.